These are the components for the drilling platform. We have a lower platform and an upper platform. We have a spotted dog. We have the supports for the platform, which come up in the center, and we have the railings. These parts are for the drill itself. We have a skeleton, we have the outsides of it that go onto the skeleton. This stuff helps hold all that together. Got some bits of trim. And then we have this, which holds on the railings. There's actually two different kinds for that. We have these that hold the platforms to the supports. And we have a bunch of ladders and stairs. So most of this is pretty easy. In fact, I think all of it's pretty easy. We have these supports, and we have these pieces that go into the supports. These parts go in the lower, this part goes in the upper. And it just goes together real simply. Put a little glue along the edges. Doesn't need to be very much. Usually try to get it in the corners. I'm trying a different camera and I can't actually see what I'm focused on. I think this is right. I'm hoping you can see what I'm doing. All right, so goes in like that. This one goes in like that. But let's go ahead and do the upper piece first. There that is. Put the top one on. Guys, come on. I would tell you they're performing for the camera, but they get orders from dog planets to bark at absolutely nothing all the time. Okay, so that's all together. I'll go ahead and put the remaining three of them together in warp time. Alright, with that part done, you can go ahead and start putting them together in this. So, top, bottom. We're going to slip this one on first and this one on second. We're not going to push it all the way up yet because leaving it down towards the bottom makes it easier once the drill is assembled. So, I'm just going to take this and slide it right through. good idea to support this corner as you're pushing it through. It is a little soft. It will get covered up by the attachments that hold it all together, and it'll be just as strong. Just something to watch out for. If it does break off, if you aren't careful with it, it'll still be okay at the end of the day. You can just put it back on and glue it in place. Okay, then we take the larger one and we do the exact same thing. However, all four of them together, so it takes a little more care. Let's go ahead and get all four of them started. Don't try to push any of them too far through at once. And if you want to get them right about to the point where these notches are, that's where the clamps that support it together, hold it together, will be located. And you can start to see already that how this thing is going to eventually completely come together. This one a little bit. There we go. All right. So that's good enough for now. Leaving these a little bit loose, leaving this further down to start with is actually a good thing. But it isn't going to kill you if it doesn't. It just makes it a little bit easier to get the drill completely in. So let's put this to the side and start on the drill. So these pieces make up the interior of the skeleton. These pieces hide where that skeleton pokes through the panels and gives it some texture on the outside. So this and this hold the skeleton together at the top and the bottom. You'll notice that these fit into the bottom part of that T, and this fits into the top part of that T. This helps hold all of that together, so the easiest thing to do is to attach these and then slip them in like so. And then you can put the bottom pieces into this and attach these to it. And all you got to do is do that 8 times. Okay, got glue on all 3 of those parts. Just going to go ahead and slip it into this. I'll leave it upside down for now. We'll do that a bunch more times. All right, now all of those are on. Some are a little crooked, but that's okay. Now we're just going to attach all of them onto this piece. With all these kinds of things, it's easiest just to start on one side, angle it a little bit, so you can see that these 3 are in. Go keep pressure here. I'm going to wiggle it until that 4th one is in. Come over to this side. Wiggle it till that 5th one is in. On the next one, it shouldn't require much force. if they are asking for a lot of force, it just means things aren't lined up, and you should just wiggle it to find where things are line up better. So that's all 4 of those pieces. Now then, just need to put these little ones in there. Obviously the narrow end goes onto the top. Let's glue those in. And again, shouldn't take any force at all. If it feels like it's taking force, just means something isn't lined up. Just straighten out all the pieces and wait for it to dry. With this dry, we'll go ahead and put the top part of the motor on. Right now it's the bottom part, but this will be the top part, and it'll have these pieces in between. Doesn't really matter, this thing can sit like this. I think this is a good reason not to put the prongs onto the bottom first though. Alright, so we're just going to put some, we'll make a mess, as I always do. Some glue onto these. Doesn't matter which way these face. They're symmetrical, achiral if you're a chemist. Alright, we'll just put the rest of them on. You hear my dogs noisily being dogs. All right, go ahead and put these on. We'll put a little glue in each of those holes and put these on. So might take just a little bit of force to bend this, get it down into those. But not much. Again, if you're having to put much force onto it, just wiggle it, something's off. And then you can also put glue down the whole length of it if you want. Okay, that's those pieces. We'll go ahead and put the grasping claws for the drill into place. There's only 4 of them, and they'll have to go inside of this. So the easiest thing to do is pick 4 of them, put some glue into it, a little extra glue around. Put this on, aligning with those spots, and then let these guide the pieces the rest of the way in. Now, these are a little bit fragile, so whatever you do, don't grab them like this and squeeze, because they will break. It's best to grab them like this. Again, if it feels like you're having to use a bunch of force on it, that means they're not lined up right. That doesn't mean you need to push harder. Now, this gap should be a pretty exact ½ inch gap in between them, so you can get any kind of ½ inch thing to put in there. A drill bit is interesting. A just wooden dowel will come with it, a ½ inch wooden dowel. But you can be cooler than that if you can think of what you want to do. Alright, so this is all on. So with this done, it's ready to be, or at least almost done, it's ready to be put onto this. Now, if this is still low, it's much easier to do this next part. This still won't be that bad, but I'm just telling you, it's a lot easier. So the thing you want to do is pull these legs out gently. Just put your thumb here, pull that out. It isn't going to give you that much resistance. Alright, and then once they're all in place, gently work them down. Alright, now at this stage they're about ready to go in, so I'm going to put just a little bit of glue into it. Actually, you can do this before this stage if you want. You could also put them into these slots beforehand, and then just finish working them down where they need to go. For some reason I didn't do this one. You will be amazed at how sturdy this is. I certainly was. And it doesn't even have the leg clamps in yet. And we're ready to clamp these down. Now these things should be set to the height where they are in between those notches. So, as always, gently raise these up. This one's a little loose already, but that's okay, because what's about to happen is going to make all of that irrelevant. Okay, level, level. Level. And then do the same thing with these. That's good. All right. Very simply, these fit in to there, and they'll fit in on the bottom and the top. my experience, it's easier to do the bottom side first. So, put a little glue here, little glue there. Let's see if you can see this. Yeah, you can. And just slide these in. Now, flip it over. Do the exact same thing on this side. Glue there. Glue there. You can also just put it on the back of this. Goes in, and that one goes in. So instead of pulling on these tips, once it gets into place, push on the point back here, and that'll force it to twist in, and that'll force it to twist in. Another thing you can do is I've put these handy little tools, in there, and you can just push it in that way. And you can see if they're matching up or not. So, even easier, now that I've shown it to you that way, is to do these inside ones first, because those are the hardest to get to, and then come back and do the outside ones. And then the next easiest thing is to put the ones that are on the inside of this inside first, and then come back and do all the rest. So let's do that. Little glue here. Put that in. See, right now this doesn't have any resistance on it, so this is going to fit really easily. Same deal with this one. And same deal with this one. Now I've given you extra of these. If, for some reason, you break some, you've got extra. If you break more, well, you can ask me for more. Or you can just shrug and glue them into place after the fact. It isn't going to hurt anything. So you see right there, I put too much force onto it and this one broke. If I wanted to, I could still just put it into place and glue this one in right there beside it, and no one would ever be the wiser. But let's go ahead and do it right. There we go. And again, it shouldn't take that much force, at least on these early ones. Especially on these early ones, put it that way. So if you find yourself having to use a lot of force on the early ones, that means that something isn't aligned right. So now I'm going to do the ones on the bottom side, on the inside of the bottom side, because again, those are the hardest ones to get to. So let's do it when that one's especially easy. And we'll go ahead and do the insides on the top plate. Go ahead and push these down to make sure that they are as low as they should be. Again, you'll notice I'm not putting pressure on the corners there. I'm putting it on the big corner up here. So it doesn't take that much force to do it. If you are having to use a lot of force, something's up. You can also do it this way to help them line up. If your fingers aren't as strong, this will give you a little extra leverage. Okay, almost done. Just got these last 8 to do. Okay, now we're to the railing. So we got 2 levels. These 4 go up around here. This thing is square, so it doesn't really matter where you start. The only thing to watch out for is that this fatter section of the railing goes on the bottom, and that interfaces with the edge of the platforms. And these things mate together like so, if you have it set up right. There you go. So those will go on like that, and that just leaves these railing pieces that hold them. Now, these railings go on like so. There's 2 different kinds. There's ones that have the thin gap over here, and there's ones that have a fat gap over here. So here you can tell the difference. The reason for that fat gap is that they go on these corner pieces where they have to cover 3 widths of MDF. These only have to cover 1 width of MDF. So they're going to go on that way. These are going to go in around all of this. So these fat ones only go on the corners of this top level. So I'm going to take this, and I'll put a little bit of glue into that notch, and along the rail, into that notch. And we'll put it into place with the fat end down, like so. Except for that is the wrong one, because thin part needs to go in the middle. So let me find a couple of fat ones here. Because I've started there, I'm going to put the glue into these notches. So put a little bit of glue in these notches as well. just because. Right. Just get them lined up, push them on, and everything is good. I think that way is easier, so I'm going to show you that way for the rest of it. So just doing the same thing. Again, I've got this kind of notch here, so that would go on that way. I need too thin, and I need too fat. That one, and that one. It's easier to make sure the center sections are aligned and get the fat ones in. Okay. And then we do the last one. Those are now solid, groovy, and right on. All right, it's the top rail. Bottom rail works the same way, except two of them are full length and two of them are half length, like so. And the reason for that is that you can put a stairway in the middle, and in the middle on this side. It's square, so it doesn't matter which side you put it on, but they can't go like here and here. They have to go here and here. So I'm just going to burn through putting these together. We'll put it into warp time, because while it's short, it just must be fascinating. And remember, you don't need any of these fat ones anymore. There should be a couple extras. Just toss them out of the way. All right, that's all that nonsense. So now we've got all the railing on. And go ahead and do the trim up here. So the trim that's on this consists of this piece, which will go in the center, and these pieces, which fill in the holes that are on 4 of the sides. The other ones, these supports went into. And then these pieces which interface with this and then align with the edges. Now the only tricky thing here is that some of them are shorter and some of them are longer. The shorter ones should alternate in between the longer ones. It's up to you if you decide you want the long ones going on these corners or those flats. Those are also corners. I don't know. They're edges. So on and so forth. And then in the end, you've got this piece, and you just align it in the center, so all of these edges are right up against the edge. All right, so let's go ahead and do these first. Not that there's much to it, but I'm just going to put a little bit of glue into each of these holes, or a ton of glue because I'm sloppy. And then before it all leaks back out, I'm just going to put these on. You can also put some up in this corner. Should you be so inclined, but it'll be fine either way. So we got 8 of these to go, 2 on each of the 4 sides. So let's go ahead and do the top one. I'm going to leave this loose for now, because why not? I'm going to put a little bit of glue into each of these, and out across the top. All right. Does not matter which one you start with. It only matters what you do from that point on. Alternating the large ones with the small ones. Alright, with all 8 of them on. Now if you were careful, you don't have glue on the bottom. If you're me, you do have glue on the bottom, and you can just go ahead and move this into place. Alright, there that is. All that's left are ladders and stairs. Okay, so the ladders are designed to hang off the railings. And you have 2 long ones for the 3-inch sides here. And you've got 4 short ones for these here. I put them in the center. You naturally can put them wherever you want. Now, the way these hang on is that these have a little G. This goes into it, like so, and then this, like so. It's a long ladder, so it's not going to go in the short space. It slides on like that, and is quite secure. You can leave them off to make transportation easier, or you can glue them into place. But regardless, it's easier to glue them onto the ladders. So to do that, all you do is take a little bit of glue, put it into the base of that little G, put it on like that. And then I like to put 2 of them on because it looks better. It looks like maybe they're handholds or some other thing to help someone vault over that rail, stay on the ladder, and not get OSHA investigating your off-planet drilling site. So leave them separated, and then I put them on this so that the ladder is sitting flat. Okay, we're to the last part, building the stairways. There's two of them. They go on either side of the first floor. There's 10 steps on each of them. They are designed to let a normal base fit in between them, so you can stand your models up on them. They're pretty easy to do. Just put a little glue into the notch. Put a stair into it. A little glue in the other notch. Put a stair into it. Okay. And then the rest of it is just putting glue into these notches and putting the stairs into the rails. It's a little easier if you go ahead and put the top one in and the bottom one, because that holds the rest of the rails very straight for the remaining steps. And don't worry about getting them aligned perfectly just yet, because there's an easy way to do that after they're all in. Now, as you get to the top of this, this back side starts to elevate. You definitely don't want to push too hard down onto it, because you could end up snapping the railing of the stair. Alright, there's all 10 of those steps. Now just flip it over. You can push down with just about as much force as you could want, because the pressure is nicely distributed across all of that. And then you set it down to dry. And then you do the second one. So with all that done and everything dry, it's just a few last things to do. So these ladders just slip on. Again, quite sturdy that way. These just slip on. Obviously you can glue them on if you want. We can just leave them off for make storage a little easier. And then there's 4 of them for up here. Again, you can put them wherever you want, but I always put them just in the center. Okay, and that's it. let's go ahead and put on the remaining trim pieces. There are two kinds. The first are the ones that fill in these slots, and they go like so. And then the second ones are aligned by this center piece and the edge of the device. Now, try again. So with all the railings done, let's go ahead and finish the trim that's on this. So the trim that's on this consists of this piece, which will go in the center, and these pieces, which fill in the holes that are on 4 of the sides. The other ones, these supports went into. And then these pieces, which interface with this, and then align with the edges. Now the only tricky thing here is that some of them are shorter and some of them are longer. The shorter ones should alternate in between the longer ones. It's up to you if you decide you want the long ones going on these corners or those flats. Those are also corners. I don't know. They're edges. So on and so forth. And then in the end, you've got this piece, and you just align it in the center, so all of these edges are right up against the edge. Alright, so let's go ahead and do these first. Not that there's much to it, but I'm just going to put a little bit of glue into each of these holes, or a ton of glue because I'm sloppy. Before it all leaks back out, I'm just going to put these on. You can also put some up in this corner. Should you be so inclined, but it'll be fine either way. So we got 8 of these to go, 2 on each of the 4 sides. Again, should not take any force. Feels like it's taking force. What do I say? It's just misaligned. Take it out and wiggle it. And of course, if you get glue anywhere, you can scrape it off, clean it with a towel, whatever your preferred method of dealing with your glue issues are. Or maybe you don't have glue issues. Maybe this is my glue issue. Certainly the less you use this, the better. Alright, that's those 4 pieces. 8 pieces. So let's go ahead and do the top one. I'm going to leave this loose for now, because why not? I'm going to put a little bit of glue into each of these, and out across the top. Alright. Does not matter which one you start with. It only matters what you do from that point on. alternating the large ones with the small ones. Hard to do. You don't want to keep moving things around. Could also put it on the other side of this. I'm going to go out on a limb and say it's going to make a mess either way. And of course, fat fingers are the enemy. Note that there's no reason you have to do it on top of this. You can just as easily do it. And that's the wrong one. Just to keep things exciting, don't make these kind of mistakes. Look, what a good educator I am. Alright, with all 8 of them on. Now if you were careful, you don't have glue on the bottom. If you're me, you do have glue on the bottom, and you can just go ahead and move this into place. And push all nice and flat and down. That should get them to line up the way you want them to. There you go. Alright, there that is. All that's left are ladders and stairs.